Last week, you needed Stephon Diggs if you wanted to win big in GPPs. Thankfully, last week I had him in my lineups. I did okay, but I faded Austin Hooper. Did I learn my lesson this week? We'll find out in this video. These are my Week 7 NFL DFS picks. What's going on, fantasy football fans? I'm your host, Hussein the Brain, and you're watching the couch. Let's go right into the quarterback picks for week 7. Because I like around 9 or 10 quarterbacks, I'll just give you my rankings, and I don't think the price really matters when it comes to picking a QB. Not too many great punts, but I will go over these ones. So my number 1 quarterback is Matt Ryan going up against the Rams. I do like Jared Goff too. Should be a high scoring game. These are all high scoring games here. Of course, Mahomes already played. So my number 2 quarterback is Kyler Murray. He can do it on the ground, he can do it on the passing game. They're the fastest paced team, they run the most plays, they throw a ton of balls. And yeah, I mean, enough said about Kyler Murray. You guys already know how high I've been on him even before the season started. And the Rams have turned into a passing team. I like Goff in that game going against the Falcons. It's a home game, but this team passes a lot. Gurley's not once what he was. Dare I say he's past his prime. Then we have Russell Wilson. He can do it on the ground. He can do it in the pass game. MVP. I think he's going to be the MVP of the league. Deshaun Watson, I think it's kind of risky, but he's playing really well. He should be in the discussion for MVP as well going against the Colts. Then we have Lamar Jackson, never counting him out. And I'm ranking Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen probably lower than most people would. And I'm just going to fade him. Like Lamar Jackson, everyone's picking him every week. And Josh Allen's going against the Dolphins. Everyone's going to be picking him. So I'm just going to fade him. Maybe I have like a Mark Andrews or a sneaky pick on the Ravens. And definitely you can pick some Bills players, but I'm going to be avoiding Josh Allen. Just because I want to be a little bit more contrarian, and I think there's so many quarterbacks out there, and it's a little bit tough to separate them. Like, do I go Kyler Murray or Goff or Ryan? There's just so many that I'd rather just pick the one that's a little bit more contrarian, and that gives me a higher chance of climbing up and getting that first place in a GPP. And then my number 8 quarterback, actually, because we're not counting Mahomes, is going to be Daniel Jones. And if you wanted to be super sneaky, there's a lot of options, but I'm going to just stick with one, and that's going to be Jacoby Brissett. I don't quite know. Will this be a Marlon Mack game? Will these teams play defense? Will the defense make big plays? I don't know. But that's good for GPP. Maybe Brissett airs it out a bit. Maybe Deshaun Watson and the Texans score. We see a lot of T.Y. Hilton. Maybe we see both tight ends ball out. I don't know. But Jacoby Brissett, a little bit the dark horse, my number 9 quarterback. And I'm going according to my rankings, actually, because Brady, Prescott, and Wentz are not in the main slate. They play Sunday night and Monday Night Football. Something we're more familiar with here. With running backs, Saquon Barkley's great. I think people are not going to pick him because of his high price. And I might be in that boat because Dalvin Cook is my number 1 running back. And talking about teams that pass a lot or run a lot, there's no team that runs more than the Minnesota Vikings. Dalvin Cook's going to get the rock in the pass game, in the run game. He'll get at least 20 touches, and he should ball out. The guy's got a really good ceiling and an excellent floor. Also, the Lions haven't been that good against the run, and I'm a bit surprised because of that. So they give up a lot of points to running backs in fantasy. And actually, I guess Fournette's my number 1 running back, because he doesn't have a lot of value in the pass game. Now, he has been getting a decent amount of targets, but his real ceiling comes with the touchdowns. He's going to be getting a lot of carries. He's going against the Bengals. Great matchup, great game script. The price is great. He's going to be chalk, and I'm going to have him in a lot of my lineups. Price at $7,000. Again, going against the Bengals. Mark Ingram had a bad week last week, and that's why I think I might pick him, just because he's contrarian and he's solid. Like, there's any given week he can score. How many touchdowns he's got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 rushing touchdowns. That's pretty good. He can definitely get touchdowns. The Ravens are a really good team. And we have Chris Carson priced $100 cheaper. So I think more people are going to flock towards Chris Carson. He's cheaper, he's better, and I think so too. I tend to agree. Chris Carson's an absolute baller this year. And we have a similar situation here with Tevin Coleman. Last week I told everyone I like Tevin Coleman more than Breida. And now everyone agrees with me, of course. Tevin Coleman, the better running back. He should get more fantasy points. So he's an excellent pick. I'm down to pick him no matter what type of contest you're entering, cash or GPP. But if you want to be a contrarian, go ahead and pick Matt Breida. Because I also said that I still like Matt Breida. I just like Tevin Coleman more. So Matt Breida will be cheaper. He'll be far less owned. Easier to fit in your lineups, and it'll separate you in a lot of your lineups. Washington's secondary is notoriously bad, but their rush defense and defending the running back isn't much better either. They do allow a ton of fantasy points to just about anybody. Like, Washington's a pretty bad team. And by the way, Breida is priced at $5,300, so he's $300 cheaper than Tevin Coleman. Kerryon Johnson. I'm going to give these two guys one more week. All right, one more week to prove it. And Kerryon hasn't sucked, but we haven't seen him explode. He's been slow and steady. 6 fantasy points, 23, 7, 16, 13. So pretty mediocre performances for his expectations. Still okay. They don't have a lot of depth at that running back position, so he should be the man. And he's not facing a great defense, not a sweet matchup. That's why I think he'll have a lot of opportunities. If he can get a touchdown or two, he'll be able to return value and then some. And he's super cheap, contrarian. I love Kerryon Johnson. The trust factor is not there, though. Like I said, I'm giving this guy one more week. And I don't know, man. Because sometimes you got to be bold, sometimes you got to be stubborn, and you got to be a little bit dumb. And that's exactly what I'm doing here. I'm going back in the David Montgomery game. I was all in on Aaron Jones and David Montgomery for week 5. And thankfully, I had Aaron Jones like in 80% of my lineups. And I just absolutely beasted. He got you, 4 touchdowns. And David Montgomery didn't do much. So I had David Montgomery maybe in like 40% of lineups. I still did great, but just because Aaron Jones was so beastly. Like, you had to have Aaron Jones if you were going to win a GPP, and he really disappointed me. I had a really good feeling he'd do well against the Raiders, and I have another excuse. I don't play the excuse game, but let's just say my excuse was that he was in London. This matchup is much tougher. This is going to be a low-scoring game against the Saints. Now, the Bears defense should play well. The Bears are coming off a bye, so I'm going back on the David Montgomery train. I'm not scared, and this is, in general, this has worked out for me. Being bold and being stubborn. I picked Marcus Mariota against the Falcons. That worked out okay. I picked Stephon Diggs last week. That worked out okay. And let's see if we can do it one more time with Kerryon Johnson and David Montgomery. I really believe he can do it. So the Bears D should be able to stop the Saints. Teddy Bridgewater is playing, not Drew Brees. Jared Cook is out. But most importantly, Alvin Kamara has been ruled out. It's going to be Latavius Murray at running back, Teddy Bridgewater at quarterback. The Saints aren't going to put up a lot of points. Unfortunately, the Bears may not either. The Bears should constantly be playing with a short field. Bears D getting the ball back for the offense, setting up opportunities for David Montgomery. Let's do it one more week. David, Monty, 4,800, playing at home, coming off a bye. They're pissed off. What else? What else can I say to get you guys hyped up about it? And then I had to mention Chase Edmonds priced at 4,700. All of a sudden now David Johnson is questionable with an ankle injury. If he were to miss this game, Chase Edmonds would be super chalk and an extremely good play. We saw with David Johnson balling out last week. Chase Edmonds still did great, getting in the end zone and getting us nearly 15 fantasy points. And the week before against the Bengals, 17 fantasy points. So he's pretty good with David Johnson. Just imagine how he's going to be if David Johnson is out. 20 or 30 fantasy points is not out the question. I suppose I need to mention Latavius Murray by default. So Latavius Murray is priced at 5,100. I'm probably not going to be picking him, even though Kamara is out. Tough matchup for him going against the Bears. Also, Todd Gurley and Malcolm Brown are questionable. Todd Gurley is expected to play. I do have to mention this by default as well because Darrell Henderson is priced at 3,500 and the Rams do play in the early game, so we will know about this. Darrell Henderson does have some upside, especially this game, if Todd Gurley and Malcolm Brown were to be out, or if just Todd Gurley was to be out, because Malcolm Brown's banged up as well and is not 100%. Do you want a punt? And that punt is Mark Walton. I'm not going to be picking him, but I just felt like I needed to give you guys a punt. Wide receivers are all over the place. My number one ranked wide receiver is Cooper Kupp. And just to let you guys know, just a secret, everyone's number one wide receiver is Cooper Kupp. He will be heavily owned. And so let's say if you do go with Goff in a big pool GPP, maybe you want to pick like a Brandon Cooks or a Gerald Everett. Try a different stack, because everyone's going to have Cooper Kupp in their lineups. Now, is he going to do good? Probably yes, but hey, that's how you separate yourself, because if Cooper Kupp does well and you pick him, you're probably still not going to win because he's going to be owned in, 22% of lineups. DJ Chark at 6,000. This could be a bounce back game for him. And I'm just kind of going, these aren't necessarily my picks because there's just so many ways to go and so many ways to stack. So I'm just kind of going over the wide receivers. And I do have a few cheap picks as well, and just some stuff that I really needed to talk about. So DJ Chark did bad this past week. He's priced at 6,000, but yeah, bounce back week against the Bengals. That's very likely to happen. And then we talked about Brissett, and so T.Y. Hilton, 5,900. He hasn't been doing that well, or at least like he is not much hype going on, right? Because 7 points against the Chiefs. Let's see what he can do against the Texans. T.Y. Hilton can go off for any given game. Tyler Boyd, basically same thing as DJ Chark. Tyler Boyd is 5,600. And I do see a huge bounce back game for him. He gets the targets, and the Bengals throw the ball a ton all the time. So he should do well. I fully expect him to do well against the Jags. And he should return value. 5,600 is pretty cheap for a guy who's going to get a ton of targets. Keep in mind, no John Ross, no AJ Green, and no Jalen Ramsey. Deebo Samuel is ruled out for the 49ers. So the number one wide receiver, I guess, would be Marquise Goodwin. If you want to pick one, then would go maybe Dante Pettis. But let's just go all the way down here. We can go back with him as a nice punt. Kendrick Bourne. Of course, everyone's going to be, this is everyone's punt right here, is going to be Alan Lazard. The chance that Kendrick Bourne outscores Alan Lazard, there is a chance, but I'd say it's around 5%. Maybe 3%, maybe 1%. There is a chance. So I'm more on the Alan Lazard hype train. Minimum priced 3,000. He looked really good and should be the number one wide receiver on the Packers. A more smart pivot from Lazard would actually be Jake Kumerow, 3,600. If Lazard's the number one wide receiver, Kumerow would be number two. He's been okay. Hasn't really done well in the season, but let's see, man, because I've just been so disappointed with MVS and Geronimo, and I feel like Rodgers hasn't completely fallen off a cliff as far as, I'm talking about fantasy. Like fantasy, he's been very disappointing, but I just don't feel like Rodgers is all of a sudden terrible now. I think he can still do it, and maybe with these new wide receivers, maybe he can do some things. Jake Kumaro, only 600 more than Lazard. Not going to be as heavily owned, of course. Lazard, it's minimum price. It's absolutely berserk. And a couple other cheap picks. I like these cheap ones. Deon Cain, with the injuries the Colts have to their receiving core, Deon Cain's priced at $3,200. If you're going with multiple Jacoby Brissett lineups, you might as well consider Deon Cain in one of your lineups. And do I have another guy? Oh yes, let's go back to Miles Boykin. I mentioned him last week. He didn't do well, but that's because Lamar Jackson ran for 150 rushing yards. Didn't throw the ball that much. Got only around 200 passing yards. I don't think the Seahawks in Seattle will let him do that 2 weeks in a row. I just think it's unlikely that Lamar Jackson will put up similar stats like that, just go all in on the run game and not really help his receivers out. And Miles Boykin got a lot of snaps, so comparable to Willie Snead. So Willie Snead's the wide receiver 1, Miles Boykin's wide receiver 2. It definitely can happen. Hollywood Brown is shaping to be inactive yet again, so of course we like Mark Andrews, but Miles Boykin, super sneaky, 3,500, an incredible way to separate yourself. Contrarian, not too many people will have him in their lineups. Hardly any, I'd say, because of guys like Lazard and Kumaro and all these other punts and cheap plays. That was a lot of wide receivers. Let's go on to the tight ends. I do like George Kittle, even though he's the most expensive tight end at $6,700. Who's going to be the most owned tight end? I think it's going to be Evan Ingram. Going against the Cardinals, they're dead last when it comes to defending the tight end. They allow the most points to the tight end position in fantasy, and Evan Ingram is going to be a big part of this offense. Sterling Shepard is out. He should get double-digit targets, and he's a good yak player. He's pretty fast, so he can take any of these passes to the house. And regardless, if he doesn't, he still is a good PPR tight end. He gets a lot of receptions. Austin Hooper, I don't think he'll do it 2 weeks in a row. I don't think he'll be the needed tight end again. And that's me being stubborn. Again, I think I will fade him. Not saying that he's whack or he's going to do whack. I just think everyone's going to pick Austin Hooper, Evan Ingram, maybe Hunter Henry. And I'm not. I'm not going to pick Austin Hooper and hope that he won't do it 2 weeks in a row and won't be the only player that ruins my perfect GPP lineup. And I'm back on again. Mark Andrews, no Hollywood Brown. Going against Seattle, they're not that great against the tight end. I like him, man. I think he's going to be Lamar Jackson's guy. And just like I said, I don't think Lamar Jackson's going to be running the ball as much and not throwing the ball. I think he'll have to throw the ball a little bit more. The Seahawks defense should be a little bit more disciplined than the defense he was facing last week. And a great value tight end, and one that people are going to pick, is Hunter Henry. The value is too great to at least not consider. We saw him be a beast week 6 against the Steelers. 100 yards, 2 touchdowns, 8 receptions. That's insane. I think he was the best tight end last week. Him, and then would come Austin Hooper, I believe. Wow, that's a cheap price, and this guy's really good, man. I think no matter how the defense plays, I think Hunter Henry will get his opportunities, and he's also a threat in the end zone to get touchdowns. Next, we have Gerald Everett. I mentioned him briefly, just a way to separate yourself and be contrarian. He did really bad last week, and so people will be a little bit off him. They are going against the Falcons, though. Goff could get 450 passing yards, and Gerald Everett, all he needs is one of those big receptions. And we have two, I guess, punts, I would say. Dawson Knox going against the Dolphins. The Dolphins suck. That's my analysis. And for a super punt that I'm not even vouching for, but I did want to mention that Vernon Davis is out, Jordan Reed is out, and so this guy Jeremy Sprinkle, who's not really that good. Oh, priced at $2,600. I thought it was $2,800. He's priced at $2,600. He's the starting tight end for Washington, and that's all I got. Look at him. Look at this guy, averaging about 3 targets a game. That's incredible. Nothing more than a punt. I don't think he's gonna be good at all. But hey, maybe he sneaks in for a touchdown. Probably not. For defenses, I like one defense. One, and that's the Bears, priced at $3,000. They're super cheap. Going against the Saints, no Bridgewater starting, no Kamara, no Jared Cook. The price is right. They're going to be great coming out of this bye week. I think the highest scoring defense is the Bills, but they're 1,300 more. That's an insanely high price. And so, you know, if I had 10 lineups, maybe I pick the Bills in 2, and then I switch it up and get maybe the Bears in 5, 6, or 7. I really do like the Bears. I did want to just mention briefly some other ones. Not really into sleepers this week for defenses, but if you did want to do it, you could go with the Niners D, 4,100. That would change up your lineup a little bit. Jaguars going against the Bengals. Packers going against the Raiders. Raiders are super banged up, man. They don't have a lot of players. They really are struggling at the receiver position. Tight ends going against the Chargers. Chargers going against Ryan Tannehill. Saints going against the Bears in case the Bears let me down. This will be a low-scoring game. Rams have Jalen Ramsey now. That's their selling point. Lions D, and we have the Colts D. But those defenses were strictly just sleepers. I love Bears D. I love Bills D. A little bit expensive, though. Niners D is okay. Saints D is okay. I try to give you guys some sneaky picks, some cheap picks, some contrarian picks. Hopefully that helps you out this week in GPP. I wish you all good luck. Make sure you guys are subscribed to this YouTube channel. Just hit that couch icon over there. We also have a second YouTube channel. Please subscribe to that as well. It's called Fantasy Couch Podcast. Hit this video with a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, thumbs down if you did not, and I'll catch you on the next video / live stream.